Welcome to Cardboard Credentials, where every card we pull isn't a frozen photo, it's a door. A door into a life lived, a story endured, a dream chased or abandoned. Today, the card we hold gleams like a promise. Josh Hamilton, 1999 Topps Traded, card number T66. A smiling young man in a Devil Rays cap. Perfect swing, brighter future, clear eyes, a portrait of hope. But what the card doesn't show is what would come next. The years lost, the battles waged inside his own body and mind, the redemption sought but never fully seized. Josh Hamilton's story is a story of gifts so profound they felt supernatural, and demons so relentless they felt biblical. And somehow, against all odds, for a few fleeting seasons, he gave us baseball at its purest, most magical form. Every card has a story, and this one's worth telling. Josh Holt Hamilton was born on May 21st, 1981 in Raleigh, North Carolina. The son of Tony and Linda Hamilton, working-class parents who sacrificed much to fuel the dreams of their two sons. From the very beginning, Josh was different. By 5 years old, he could throw a ball harder and faster than kids twice his age. By 10, he was dominating Little League tournaments statewide. By middle school, people whispered about the kid from Raleigh who launched baseballs over 400 feet before he could even drive a car. But it wasn't just strength. It was grace, fluidity, and a naturalness that couldn't be coached or taught. He was a once-in-a-generation kind of athlete, not just in baseball either. Josh could have been a star quarterback, a power forward, and a track champion. But baseball spoke to him. It called him, and he answered, loudly. At Athens Drive High School, Hamilton became a living legend. 529 batting average as a senior, 13 home runs in just 25 games, and a fastball that touched 96 miles an hour. The scouts weren't just visiting, they were camping out. It wasn't a question of if he'd go pro, it was how soon and how high. Josh Hamilton wasn't just the best high school player in America. He was the best prospect most scouts had seen in a decade. And when the 1999 MLB draft rolled around, there was no debate. With the first pick in the 1999 MLB draft, the Tampa Bay Devil Rays selected Josh Hamilton, outfielder, phenom. He signed for nearly $4 million, one of the largest bonuses ever awarded at the time. Instantly, he became the face of the fledgling Tampa Bay franchise's future. He was 18 years old, rich, famous, and burdened. Topps Traded released his rookie card that fall, number T66, a simple card, but one packed with expectation. Collectors swooped in. Everyone wanted a piece of the future, and why wouldn't they? Josh Hamilton wasn't just a star, he was supposed to be a superstar. Everything was set, the runway was clear, all he had to do was fly. Hamilton reported to the minors and predictably dominated. In 2000, he hit .302 across single A, 13 home runs, top defensive grades, a 5-tool marvel. But cracks started to show. The first was seemingly innocuous, a car crash. En route to spring training 2001, Josh and his parents were involved in a serious accident. Josh walked away with minor injuries, nothing outwardly debilitating. But under the surface, something shifted. Physically, his back began to ache. Emotionally, his world tilted. He spent more time away from baseball, more time wandering, more time exposed to temptation. Tattoo parlors, late-night bars, new crowds. Slowly, the perfect prospect started to drift from the path. And baseball, once a sanctuary, became less an escape and more a burden. Injury rehab meant downtime. Downtime meant danger. It started innocently enough with alcohol. Beers after rehab sessions, shots with friends, then pills, then harder stuff. Cocaine, crack. Within a year, Josh Hamilton, the number one pick in the country, was using drugs regularly. And no one, not his family, not the team, not even Hamilton himself, fully understood how quickly he was sliding. 2002 was supposed to be the year Josh Hamilton arrived in the majors. Instead, it was the year everything collapsed. Failed drug tests, mysterious absences, team suspensions. Tampa Bay issued warnings, then fines, then bans. Josh was suspended multiple times for personal reasons, though few in the media knew the truth at first. Inside, Josh was unraveling. He was addicted, fully, hopelessly. And yet, part of him still believed he could flip the switch, go clean, get back on track. But addiction doesn't operate with rational timelines. It claws, it burrows, it lies. By the end of 2002, Hamilton's career was in a free fall. He was barely playing baseball at all. He was playing survival. And more accurately, he was losing. In 2003, the MLB suspended Josh Hamilton indefinitely for violating the league's drug policy. Not a 10-game suspension, not a rehab stint, indefinite. He was banned from all team activities, banned from stepping into clubhouses, banned from even entering minor league ballparks. Josh Hamilton didn't just lose his job, he lost his identity. He spiraled further, living in motels, spending nights in crack houses, burning through his signing bonus dollar by dollar. He pawned his possessions. He sold his World Series ring. He sold his rookie cards, including the Topps traded number T66 that once meant everything. Family members stopped taking his calls. Friends gave up. Hope evaporated. He was no longer the smiling face on a baseball card. He was another lost soul swallowed by addiction's ruthless jaws. And unless something changed, he would become a cautionary tale. Another ghost, another headline, another talent wasted. There's no playbook for hitting rock bottom. No scoreboard to tell you when you've lost. For Josh Hamilton, rock bottom wasn't just a single moment. It was a slow-motion implosion. Waking up on filthy floors, not remembering how he got there. Pawning every valuable he owned to feed a 24-hour drug binge. Stealing from friends, lying to family, isolating himself completely. At his lowest, Josh weighed less than 180 pounds, skeletal for his 6'4" frame. His skin was pale and eyes were hollow. He wasn't just a fallen baseball player. He was a man teetering on death's doorstep. And still, somewhere inside the darkness, the faintest spark of guilt flickered. A part of him knew. This wasn't how it was supposed to be. It was his grandmother, Mary Holt, who gave him a place to stay when no one else would. The rules were simple. No drugs, no drinking, respect this house. At first, Josh failed, over and over. But eventually, something began to shift. Small steps, tiny battles, days without using, weeks without drinking. He started attending Bible study groups. He met old coaches who refused to give up on him. He heard stories of others who had clawed back from addiction. And slowly, the idea planted itself in his mind. Maybe he could fight back. In 2005, Josh Hamilton applied for reinstatement to Major League Baseball. Commissioner Bud Selig, after lengthy meetings and personal interviews, allowed him back, conditionally. Every step was monitored, and every move was scrutinized. Josh wasn't back in the big leagues yet. He was far from it. He started over at the absolute bottom. Extended spring training, short season rookie leagues, bus rides, motel rooms, empty ballparks. There were no guarantees, no special treatment. He had to learn from every single opportunity. And slowly, almost painfully slowly, Josh's natural talent began to reemerge. His swing, his arm, his presence. But just as important as his physical recovery was the mental one. Josh Hamilton had to learn how to live sober. Not just survive baseball sober, exist sober. Deal with boredom, deal with stress, deal with pain, without relapsing. He surrounded himself with accountability partners. He made public promises. He set up strict daily routines. Baseball was no longer just a game to Josh Hamilton. It was a lifeline. A second chance he didn't deserve, but desperately wanted. In 2006, during the Rule 5 draft, a system designed to give overlooked players a new opportunity, the Cincinnati Reds took a gamble. They selected Josh Hamilton for $50,000. Chump change compared to the fortune he once signed for. The deal came with risks. If Hamilton didn't make the Major League roster, the Reds had to offer him back to Tampa Bay. Spring training 2007 was make or break, and Hamilton delivered. Despite years away from top-level pitching, despite a body battered by substance abuse, he showed flashes of his old brilliance. A smooth, violent swing, effortless power, and a cannon for an arm. The Reds kept him. Opening day, 2007, Josh Hamilton stood on a major league field for the first time. He went on to hit .292 with 19 home runs in just 90 games. Fans embraced him. Teammates respected him. The media couldn't get enough of the comeback story. Hamilton was honest about his past. No excuses, no lies. Every time he stepped onto the field, it felt like victory over the ghosts that were still lurking in the shadows. Despite his promising 2007 campaign, the Reds, wary of his durability, traded Josh Hamilton to the Texas Rangers after just one season. Texas believed in him. Texas needed him. Texas gave him a fresh start. And in Arlington, under the sweltering Texas sun, Josh's fragile flame would ignite into a wildfire. 2008 was the season that everything clicked. Every scout's prophecy fulfilled. Hamilton hit .304, had 32 home runs, and 130 RBIs. He didn't just succeed, he dominated. But it was one night in particular that elevated Josh Hamilton from comeback player to legend. July 14, 2008, Yankee Stadium. The final home run derby ever hosted in the house that Ruth built. The bright lights, the cameras, the pressure. And Josh Hamilton turned it into a cathedral. In the first round, he launched 28 home runs, a derby record. Each swing was pure poetry. Moonshots clearing the bleachers. Fans, even Yankees fans, stood and roared his name. Coaches, players, legends, all shaking their heads in disbelief. Josh Hamilton wasn't just a good story anymore. He was a baseball miracle. He didn't win the Derby. Justin Morneau took the trophy, but no one remembers that. Everyone remembers Hamilton's barrage, his redemption tour, his moment. For a few magical minutes in July 2008, Josh Hamilton stood as living proof that no fall was too far, no night was too dark, and no story was too lost to be rewritten. 2010 wasn't just a good year for Josh Hamilton, it was his defining year. The year he didn't just overcome, he dominated, at a level few players ever reach. Hamilton hit .359, the highest in the MLB that season, 32 home runs, 100 RBIs, and a .633 slugging percentage. He was a force of nature. Opposing pitchers feared him. Fans adored him. And when the MVP voting closed, it wasn't even close. Josh Hamilton was named the 2010 American League Most Valuable Player. The symbolism wasn't lost. The man once discarded by baseball, the man who battled demons and nearly lost everything, was now the best player in the game. It was a fairy tale. The story every parent wanted their kids to hear. The story every sports writer wanted to write. Hamilton himself seemed to understand how improbable it all was. He gave credit to God, to his wife Katie, to his family, to the Rangers organization. But under the bright lights of victory, cracks were already forming. The 2010 postseason was a whirlwind. The Rangers surged to the American League, finally reaching the World Series for the first time in franchise history. Hamilton played hero after hero. Clutch hits, home runs, diving catches. He was awarded the ALCS MVP, blasting 4 home runs in 6 games. But the World Series against the San Francisco Giants, Hamilton, like the Rangers, struggled. The storybook ending never arrived. The confetti fell, but not for Josh Hamilton. And after the final out, something shifted. The pressure, the exhaustion, the invisible weight he carried, it didn't lift. If anything, it grew heavier. Behind the scenes, Hamilton was battling hard against his old enemies: addiction, temptation, and isolation. Even in the height of his MVP season, he remained intensely vulnerable. He avoided hotels alone. He traveled with accountability partners. He rarely carried cash to prevent impulsive behavior. He knew, as did those around him, that one slip could send the entire empire crashing down. And then, it happened. In 2009, before his MVP campaign, photos had surfaced of Hamilton drinking at a bar in Arizona. No drugs, but plenty of alcohol. The Rangers management scrambled to contain the fallout. Hamilton held a tearful press conference. He apologized publicly. Fans forgave, the media softened, because the story was still too good to lose. But Josh knew better. Addiction was patient. It waits, it lurks, and it always demands a price. 2011 brought another chance, another run at a ring. The Texas Rangers were loaded. Josh was still a star, though injuries had crept in, slowing him. The Rangers stormed through the postseason again, setting up a showdown against the St. Louis Cardinals in the World Series. Game 6, a night written in baseball legend. The Rangers were one strike away from their first ever championship, twice. Each time, St. Louis battled back. In extra innings, Josh Hamilton smashed a 2-run homer, putting Texas ahead again. It felt destined. Finally, the hero would win his crown. But fate had other plans. The Cardinals tied the game. Then, in the 11th inning, David Freese hit a walk-off home run to force Game 7. The Cardinals went on to win the World Series. And just like that, Hamilton's window slammed shut. After the 2011 heartbreak, Josh Hamilton's career began a slow decline. He was still good. Flashes of brilliance appeared. But he wasn't the invincible superstar anymore. The injuries piled up. The swing lost a half second. The body slowed. Worse, whispers grew louder. Josh wasn't fully committed. Josh wasn't focused. Josh might be slipping again. During the 2012 season, Hamilton suffered a high-profile slump late in the year. Fans turned and media sharpened. After the Rangers' disappointing finish, the team made a stunning decision. They let Josh Hamilton walk in free agency. No offer, no farewell ceremony, no parade. Just a clean, cold break. The Angels swooped in. They signed Hamilton to a massive 5-year, $125 million contract. On paper, it looked like a steal. A former MVP at age 31, still enough gas in the tank, still enough home runs in the bat. But the man who arrived in Anaheim wasn't the same Josh Hamilton who once conquered Yankee Stadium. Injuries followed him west. A thumb injury, a shoulder injury, lingering back pain. He struggled at the plate. He struggled to stay healthy. And off the field, storm clouds gathered again. In early 2015, the headlines broke. Josh Hamilton had relapsed. It wasn't just a drink this time. It wasn't a quiet, personal stumble. Reports said Hamilton had used cocaine. Again. He self-reported the relapse. A sign of responsibility? Yes. But it didn't blunt the shock. Not to the fans, not to Major League Baseball, and certainly not to the Angels front office. This wasn't a man lightly slipping. It was a man in free fall. The Angels were furious. Owner Art Moreno, once a proud Hamilton supporter, turned on him publicly. Hamilton was not suspended by the MLB thanks to a technicality in how his previous infractions were classified, but he was exiled by his own team. The Angels refused to let him return to the clubhouse. They shopped his contract. They made it clear. Josh Hamilton was no longer welcome in Anaheim. In April 2015, the Texas Rangers, the only organization that had truly loved him, brought him back. For practically nothing. The Angels still paid most of his salary just to get rid of him. Hamilton returned to Texas wounded, both physically and emotionally. Fans welcomed him cautiously, like greeting an old friend you're afraid to lose again. Hamilton's second stint in Texas never truly got off the ground. He played 50 games in 2015, hit .253, struck a few home runs, showed flashes of the old lightning. But his knees were gone. Surgeries piled up. Recovery never really happened. In 2016, he attempted another comeback. More surgeries, more setbacks, more silence. Finally, in 2017, Josh Hamilton's agent announced what had long been inevitable. Josh Hamilton's baseball career was over. No farewell tour, no grand press conference, no ovation. Just done. Retirement didn't solve Josh Hamilton's struggles. In 2019, he was arrested and charged with injury to a child after an incident involving one of his daughters. It was a heartbreaking chapter in a life already filled with too much pain. He later pleaded guilty to unlawful restraint. The news devastated fans who had clung to the idea that Hamilton was a success story, as a miracle, as proof that you could overcome anything. But real life isn't a fairy tale. It's messy. And Hamilton, for all his talent and triumphs, remained deeply human. Today, when you hold the 1999 Topps Traded number T66 card, you're not just holding cardboard. You're holding a time capsule. A boy who hadn't yet touched cocaine. A swing that hadn't yet been dulled by the pain. A spirit that hadn't yet been battered by relapse after relapse. It's a photograph of potential, of pure, raw hope, frozen just before the fall. It's not just a rookie card, it's a reminder that gifts don't guarantee outcomes, that talent doesn't protect you from yourself, that survival is a different kind of championship. So just how do we remember Josh Hamilton? As a bust? No. He gave us too much beauty to be dismissed so easily. As a hero? No. He stumbled too many times to be defied. Josh Hamilton belongs in a more complicated category. He is a man who touched greatness, a man who fought demons and sometimes lost, a man who inspired millions and disappointed them too. In his best moments, the home run derby, the MVP season, the clutch home runs in October, he played baseball as if the heavens themselves handed him a bat. In his worst moments, hotel rooms, mugshots, broken promises, he lived a cautionary tale writ large. Maybe that's why Josh Hamilton's story sticks with us, because it's human, not neat, not clean, not a fairy tale. It's real, flawed, brilliant, and broken. If there's a lesson inside Josh Hamilton's fragile flame, maybe it's this. Talent is a gift, but grace, real grace, isn't measured by your highlights. It's measured by how you carry your scars. And some scars you carry forever, not because you're weak, but because you're still here. Josh Hamilton's story reminds us that greatness and brokenness are sometimes two sides of the same card. And even when the game ends, even when the lights fade, the story doesn't. It keeps swinging, just like him. Thank you for joining us today on Cardboard Credentials. This was the story of Josh Hamilton, the fragile flame who burned so bright and so hot, and yet somehow, in some small way, still burns on. Because every card has a story, and sometimes the ones with the brightest smiles are fighting the darkest battles. Until next time, keep your cards safe and your stories alive.